right. I think we are now live.
Good to go.
All right. Good to go. All right. Well, I'll jump in and just say welcome, everybody. This is the monthly, Vandojam, the online version, the Vandojam at home version. And so proud to be here. And thankful to all the great folks at Vandoren, David Gould, Mike Skinner, and Andrew Hadro, and so many others. Would like to, my name is Jimmy Greene, first of all, and I'm glad to be here with Chris Madsen as well tonight. Hey, Chris.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Jimmy. Thanks
all
for
right.
being with us. I'm very happy to be here.
Beautiful. So we're going to do some playing. We're going to do some talking and sharing of our own music and you know, talking about the saxophone, I'm sure, and paying attention to, I think Andrew is on. He's going to maybe upload some questions you may have or thoughts you may have to the chat, and we'll try to address those as well. So we're with you until 10. So welcome, and let's go. Maybe we'll start off with a little playing. How about that?
Sounds great. We were talking about Solar, right?
Solar sounds good. All right.
Allegedly written by Miles Davis.
There's a lot of tunes like that, huh?
Yeah, it's true. You want to play first time there, Jimmy?
Sure, I'll play the first head, and then you got it from there, and we'll go.
Alrighty.
All right. Yes, indeed.
All right.
Yeah, Chris.
Yeah, Jimmy, sounds wonderful, man. It's a real pleasure to play with you, for real.
My pleasure, man.
And I wanted to say, I know that you don't remember this. There's no way that you do, but I first met you when I was I was a senior during my undergrad, and we were both on I believe the SS Norwegian Sun, and you were with Steve Terre's group.
Wow.
And
yeah.
This was 2002, I believe.
Sure. Yep.
If memory serves me correctly.
Yeah.
And I was playing with the DePaul University Jazz Ensemble.
Oh,
and
man. All right. Yeah.
I couldn't have been more wet behind the ears.
Well, we were on a boat, Chris. I mean, everybody was kind of wet. And
I guess I kind of walked right into that one, didn't I? But yeah, so it was great, man. I just remember hearing you, and that was the first time I became aware of your music, and from there I've been checking you out ever since. And like I said before, not to embarrass you, but you know, I do remember that, and I believe we actually had a brief conversation, because at that point I was thinking about graduate school, and I wanted to go to New York, and so I think I kind of picked your brain a little bit, but honestly, I think I was a little bit too nervous to really get into a real conversation.
Oh no!
The day has finally arrived. These, you know, 15 years later, I can finally pick your brain about moving to New York. You know, those days have come and gone for me, but nevertheless, it's a thrill to be with you, and I do remember that. And yeah, I don't know, were you a Vandoren guy back then?
No, that's more of a more recent thing, actually. Okay. I started playing Vandoren reeds and mouthpieces simultaneously in 2013. a friend of mine named another Vandoren artist and a great guy, Albert Rivera, was talking to me about all the Vandoren products, and I was looking to switch up. I wasn't super satisfied with the setup I had at the moment. And let me preface all this by saying, like, I'm not a real big like saxophone gearhead, you know, really not. Once I find something I like, I kind of stick with it.
Right.
And then when it's not really working, whatever that thing is, I'll try something new. But I won't, you know, as a matter of course, I don't generally like, you know, try a whole lot of stuff all the time.
Right.
But I made an exception because, you know, I was looking to change things up a bit. And so I took Albert's advice, and he brought me down to meet David Gould and in the Vandoren shop. And man, the rest is history. I found, you know, the perfect setup for me.
Sure.
And I've been playing it, you know, this is probably the longest time I've ever played like one mouthpiece and reed combination. You know, usually I can go for several years, but this has been like, you know, going on 8 years now, 7-8 years that I've been playing. I play a V16 mouthpiece, and Andrew was joking with me or joking with us before we got on, or a couple of days ago, saying that I'm sure some people will be surprised they even make a mouthpiece with that big of a facing, but I play a T11, a V16 T11 tenor mouthpiece. Yeah. And I play Vandoren ZZ reeds, number 3 on tenor. And I have my little glass block that I kind of take a little bit off some of them. So, you know, it's a 3, 2.75, something like that. And I play MO gold-plated ligature.
I got to get me one of those reed shaving devices. I didn't realize, you said Vandoren makes one of those.
Well, I have a little, I don't have it on me right now. It's on the other side of the room, but it's this little glass block. It's like, you know, it's textured glass.
Yeah.
So it acts like sandpaper.
Ooh.
So I just kind of, the flat side of the reed, I just, you know, do this a little bit, some on the rails, you know, and that you got to be careful, right? Because you can always take more off, but you can never put any back on, you know? So you got to be careful not to do too much. And man, I've been getting some, I mean, almost all these reeds play good, you know?
I know, it's true.
I'm very consistent.
I know what I'm going to be picking up next time I'm at the Chicago.
There you go.
Yeah, because well, that's really interesting, man. Because you know, with an 11, I would think you would need something a little bit softer than a 3. So you apparently like a pretty decent amount of resistance then with the.
I always have, for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Like I always like, I'm a big guy, right? So 6'6", you know. So I have, my wife will she'll agree that I have a lot of hot air, you know. So you know, I tend to like a more resistant setup, just because I feel like I can put all my air into it and not, you know, overblow it. So
yeah, that's interesting, man. I was the same way for a while there. I'm on the metal V16 here, and for a while I was on the T7 opening with 4s, with ZZ4s actually, which is a pretty decent amount of resistance. But I recently switched to this T6 with the 3.5. Yep. 3.5 ZZ, so it's a little bit less. But yeah, I like that too. I heard someone say once that there's something, it's easier with intonation because you're blowing a truer, you know, your air gets directed in a certain way so that you can manipulate it better or something like that when you have a little bit more resistance. I don't know. Who knows what I don't know. Is, but I
just like the feel of it, you know.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you know, when I was younger, I studied for years and years with Jackie McLean.
Sure.
And I remember he picked up my setup one time and played it. And this is even before I was playing Vandoren products. I was, you know, playing kind of resistant setup, and he picked up my soprano once and played it. He's like, "Man, what strength reed is that?" And I told him what it was. He was like, "Oh, you know," he just shook his head like, "Oh, you know." And I was around David Liebman quite a bit in my younger years too, and he was very helpful as well. And he said, yeah, when you get older, you'll soften up your read. And I used to play like number 5 reeds back in the day, like really hard reeds.
Wow.
So yeah,
That's significant. Yeah, I like I do. I know what you mean about the consistency. You know, I've tried some of that. And Andrew told us it's called the Vandoren Reed Resurfacer. So that's what I'm going to be getting next.
yeah.
I'm at Michael Tran, if you're listening, at the advisory studio in Chicago. That's the, you know, if you want to hold for me, that would be great.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, but so I actually joined Vandoren. I think it was 2015. So I'm even more recent. And I was, you know, honestly, I was playing a hard rubber, one of those vintage slant signature auto links for a long time. And I needed to play metal, and some of my friends here in Chicago were playing the metal Vandorens, and I had just been thinking about going back to metal for a long time because I played metal in high school. And I just, something I missed about the presence of it, you know what I mean? Like, I'm looking for a super bright sound. I was tired of just blowing my brains out on you know what I mean, just to be heard within the context of even an acoustic jazz group. And I just wanted a little bit more presence with the metal. And my friends were telling me, yeah, check out the Vandoren. And so I did, and like you said, the rest is history. You know, I went with the ZZ. I tried, you know, I spent a day in the advisory studio here in Chicago, and tried all the cuts, and the ZZ seems to work the best for me. Yeah, it's great, man. I love the support that they give to the artists. It's just it's unmatched in my opinion.
It's pretty awesome. I mean, I tell my students, it's like, you know, it's one thing to go to a place and try a mouthpiece, you know.
Yeah, right.
But it's another thing entirely to go to a place that has every single mouthpiece that runs the gamut, you know, of facings and, you know, tip openings and chambers and materials, you know, and then every single reed too. So you can kind of pair exactly what you like. You can kind of really match what you like. So they've been so great to work with. I haven't been to the Chicago studio, but I have been to the New York one many times. Yeah. And man, it's an awesome thing they do for us artists. It's pretty cool.
Absolutely. I lived in New York I went to Juilliard for grad school. I was in New York for 3 years in the 2000s. So I kind of remember the layout of the city. What part of the city is the Vandoren Advisory Studio in anyway? It's
in Midtown Manhattan. It used to be on 54th Street, between I think it was between Broadway and, Andrew can type it. It was close to Broadway, on 54th Street, Broadway and 8th. Yeah, between Broadway and 8th. Yep. And now it's on 37th Street. I think a little bit further west. Is that correct? Between 8th and 9th. There you go. So.
Perfect. And for those of you who are Chicagoans out there, the Chicago Advisory Studio is, I believe, on Evergreen Street at around Halsted and North Avenue-ish, somewhere in there. And we have one in LA as well. And so advisory studios as far as the eye can see. But so I think you mentioned Jimmy teaching, and I know that you said, was it Western Connecticut State? Is that your?
Yep, WestCon. Yep, Western Connecticut State University.
I'm curious as to what your what are your duties there? What do you do? Are you adjunct, or what do you do up there?
I'm a full-time there, and I'm an associate professor of music and co-coordinator of the Jazz Studies program. I run it with a great musician colleague named Jamie Begian. And so, yeah, my duties are the coordination duties of the department, which, you know, range from curriculum to personnel to advising the student jazz club. So it's a wide range of administrative duties, plus the teaching area. I teach pretty much all of the courses in the jazz studies area in our school. Of course, we have a Bachelor of Music degree with a concentration in jazz studies, but the great thing about Western is there isn't a barrier so that kids that don't major in jazz studies can't participate in the jazz area classes or ensembles. They all can. So even though I'm the jazz area coordinator, I work a lot with students, of all majors, from audio majors to music ed majors to kind of classical performance majors. Teaching all the courses in the jazz area, so they don't all happen in the same semester. There's a rotation, but every semester I teach improvisation. Every semester I have applied saxophone students. Every semester I conduct the jazz orchestra, and every semester I have a small group as well.
Wow! Yeah.
And then on rotation, these courses each happen once in a semester. So there's 4 kind of core area courses, and one's happening this fall, one will happen in spring, one will happen next fall, one will happen next spring, then the rotation starts again. But it's pedagogy, history, theory, and arranging. So yep, I teach all those on rotation. Sometimes my colleague teaches jazz theory. Sometimes teaches arranging. But yeah, so it's kind of cool because I enjoy teaching all those courses. And it's nice to change it up so you're not doing exactly the same thing every semester. So it's it's fun, and I have some great students, and so it makes it a lot of fun.
Yeah. Is it relatively close? So I know you live in Connecticut, is that right? So
yeah.
Is it relatively close to your place up there?
Oh yeah, the school is probably 20 minutes from my place.
Nice.
Okay. And then we're about an hour. Danbury, where the university is, about an hour north of New York City, and it's right on the Metro North train line. So it's very convenient to get in and out of New York from there. So
sure.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I mean, while we're talking education, I might.
Yeah. Where are you, and what are you doing?
Sure. Yeah, I might as well. I was going to say put a plug in for my teaching. So I teach at 2 different institutions. One's in Chicago, University of Illinois at Chicago. Go Flames! And so I've been in various appointments there since 2014. I was full-time 2014 through 2018. And for the 2017-18 season, I was the interim director of jazz studies. So I got my feet wet in that. Something I hope to do again, in the future. And then now I'm adjunct there. I teach saxophone lessons. I teach jazz arranging. And for a while I taught improv here. I also teach a jazz history class, and my jazz history course is actually a survey course for non-majors, which is very, very interesting because it, you don't realize how much you take for granted in regards to the jazz parlance. You know what I mean? Like, you can't say the word measure or bar, or you can't say chord. Like, they don't know what,
Right.
You have to really sort of check your language there at the door and really kind of start from scratch. And so, but I think in a larger sense, that's kind of what happens with teaching. And that's one of the reasons why I love teaching so much, is because, it forces you to be on top of your game all the time. And when you're put in that position of authority in order to, relay information to the next generation, you really have to live it, and you have to be for real. And, the students are able to suss out whether you're BSing them or not, pretty quickly. So it forces you to do some research on your part and make sure your thing is airtight. Not that I'm saying my playing is airtight. I'm just saying, whatever you're working on that day, that you can demonstrate it to them. And it's really kind of like a reflective thing of looking in the mirror for me with education. I always kind of live the mantra, or have tried to live the mantra, that it's, education. It's something I heard from Justin DiCioccio once, actually, when I went to go see a concert with one of my friends at Manhattan School. It's the 3-part, stool that we all sit on, the education, performance, and composition, right? And I feel like all those 3 things, they all inform the other. So if you're a conscientious educator, you'll in some ways that affects your composing, and that affects your performing, and they're all like interrelated. And that's something I heard early on that really kind of stuck with me. And then in addition to that, I have to give a shout out to the Rangers up at UW Parkside in Kenosha. I'm the saxophone instructor there as well. Adjunct saxophone instructor right now, just teaching lessons. But yeah, it's cool because I live in the northern suburbs of Chicago, so it's actually pretty close to my house. But yeah, so I'm curious, how long have you held that position there at Western?
I've been at WestCon since 2012.
Oh,
so
wow.
This is year number 9.
Very cool.
Yeah, year number 9. And it's funny that you mentioned the kind of 3 areas of the contemporary artist: the performance, the composition, and the teaching. And you mentioned Justin DeChocho. I studied with Justin. I did the doctoral program at Manhattan School of Music and graduated from there. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Wow.
Yep. And Justin was so big in my experience there, as well as Jim McNeely. Huge influences and really, really important in my development during that stage. I really learned a ton from both of them. And so yeah, that's something that I've always thought that teaching, if you're really honest, with yourself and with your students, you get better. I feel like I've gotten a lot better as a player.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Over the years of trying to think of ways to explain what I'm doing or what I'm thinking about, right?
Yeah.
And it forces me to really think about it more, and to kind of, tighten some things up, maybe, that I realize, wow, I do this, but maybe this isn't the best way to go about it. Or I do this and wow, I'd like to explore this more. I've kind of do this intuitively and let's go down this path a little more. Or I do this intuitively and, maybe I shouldn't be doing it as much, so right. I think the teaching process has made me a better player and a better writer too,
Yeah, man, that's so funny you mentioned McNeely, because now that you say that, I can hear, having checked out your while looking up that new record, I can hear some of that. I can hear the McNeely, whether or not you consciously try to evoke that. Like I can sort of hear that influence in there. I'm thinking of that fast tune. What is that? Oh man, the name escapes me right now. But
Overreaction, maybe.
Yes, Overreaction. Yes. That kind of sounds like a McNeely big band thing almost. It's like it's got that tempo that he loves to write in. And
yeah.
I went to my undergraduate was from DePaul University here in Chicago, and McNeely came to visit us a couple times.
He's from Chicago.
I'm from the suburbs. Yeah.
Oh, he's from Chicago, I said.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
From Chicago. Yeah, I forgot. And so, yeah, he was a big. I was deep into the big band writing thing for a while. I've kind of let that slide in recent years, but yeah, he was a big influence for me as well. Just where does he get that stuff? I would have loved to have studied with him. I came this close to going to Manhattan School too for grad school for my master's.
Yeah.
Auditioned there. I was ready to go to Dick Oates' studio. I was ready to do the whole thing. I knew I wanted to go to New York, but it ended up going a different direction. But yeah, it's a cool, a very, very, very cool thing that they have going on there.
I remember one of my first lessons with Jim that, and I've always loved the reason I wanted to go to MSM to do a doctorate wasn't necessarily like to have a doctorate, really. It was just, I wanted to study like writing with Jim McNeely, and that was a way to do it. And, I figured, that's what I want. This is what I want to learn about what he does and what he thinks about when he's writing, because I love it, So one of my first lessons with him, he was on his way to Germany, he does a lot of conducting and writing for the Frankfurt Radio Big Band, right? Mm-hmm. And he was on his way to do a concert with a guest artist from here. I forget exactly who it was. And he was saying, yeah, I'm arranging 10 pieces for this concert for the big band to play with this guest soloist. And I said, wow, you know, I guess the concert was like in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, something like that. I said, well, how many do you have done? He said, well, I have 3 done. I was like,
oh, man.
Like, how are you going to do 7 in that space of time? He said, well, you know, and he told me I have sketches of the rest of the 7 I have, you know, and he described a framework that he writes with.
Yeah, sure.
And, you know, he says, once I have a melody, he said, I can develop it 8-10 different ways right off the bat without even thinking too hard, you know?
Yeah, that's a pro.
And so I'm like, wow, that is someone who is a master and has so much experience and good taste, you know? It's like, I want to get there someday with writing, you know?
Yeah. I remember, man, if you want to, I mean, realizing, I mean, not that this is like a, you know, a Jim McNeely session, but I mean, you can't sing the guy's praises enough, you know, because I remember Brookmeyer came to work with us as well. It was in the early 2000s. And I just remember him singing McNeely's praises as well. I mean, it was like, man, because I remember when Brookmeyer, I think, if I'm getting my history right, I think he took sort of a hiatus to get himself together, you know, sometime in the 70s, and then he sort of started writing for the Vanguard or Mel Lewis band in the early 80s, and at that point McNeely was there and writing and playing, and he just said he was blown away by McNeely.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's just kind of a testament right there. I mean, Bob Brookmeyer, you know.
Yeah, great writer, man. Great.
Yeah, he sort of took the influence of McNeely as well. But
and speaking about being around giants, I mentioned earlier Jackie McLean, like, yeah. To be around him, it was, and I was much younger, you know, then, but it was like I was in awe of Jackie. Like, I knew him on a personal level, you know, and he treated me, you know, so kindly over the years. So it wasn't like this kind of unapproachable figure that I could call him on the phone at any time, but it was just the weight of all he had done in his life and his career, and the weight every time he picked up, now bringing it back to the saxophone, every time he picked up his instrument, every note he played had such a weight and a direction and a purpose to it. It wasn't like wasted. Everything had this rhythmic weight and this kind of sonic weight to it. I don't know how else to describe it. It just, you listen, you're around the room, in the room when he's playing, and I just remember being in awe of that, the weight of his presence, his musical presence, his sound, and his, you know, wow.
Yeah. I mean, talk about someone with a resume. I mean, good God, man. I mean, Jackie, it's a guy that that some of my friends, when I was in New York, some of my friends had gone to the Hart School and had been able to study with him. And something I always wished I would have been able to see him live or meet him or anything, but it just never happened for me. But man, talk about the weight. I got to meet Wayne Shorter for 2 minutes one time. Yeah, that was enough to. Yeah, that was enough for me. You know, I mean. And that's the sense I get from him. In fact, you know, there was this solo that I was going to play. We were informed of some copyright issues, and you're not going to play recordings of others just for that reason. But I had a Wayne thing queued up. Wayne for me is just kind of, it begins and ends there in a lot of ways. You know, as far as pretty much everything in jazz, you know, for me. But I remember meeting Wayne briefly backstage at the Ravinia Festival here in the Chicagoland area in the late 90s. Mm-hmm. And just someone that I can say, you know, he really taught me about the importance, just listening to his music, just taught me about the importance of meaning what you say and intent and statement and purpose, just like you said, you know. And I had this solo, the one that always kills me is Miyako, you know, the ballad from Schizophrenia that he plays. Yeah. Oh man, every time I play a ballad, I try to pay tribute to that solo in some way. That was very, very informative for me to hear. And I first heard it in high school, so it was like, man, that was the perfect age to be exposed to someone like that, you know, just
Oh
at
yeah.
the time. I'm curious, man, because we were talking about playing some recordings and stuff, but you know, formative stuff for you when you were young, when you were first starting, is there anything you can kind of point back to as far as informing you to this day?
Absolutely. I mean, I was very fortunate in a couple regards. Number one, that my dad, even though he wasn't, you know, a professional musician at all, you know, as far as a player, a saxophone player, he wasn't at a professional level, but he did play quite a bit when he was in high school, junior high, and he gave me a horn when I was 6. I was pretty young, and I didn't practice it. You know, I played it in like school band and it collected dust in the corner of my room over the summer. But when I got to junior high, I started to get into listening to the music. And when I got, when I demonstrated to him that I was really interested in this music, he had a lot of records, mostly R&B records. But he was, really into songwriting at one point. In the early 70s, he took a correspondent. He was he got all his degrees in math and in computer science. So he was a tech person professionally, but he took a correspondence course from Berklee College of Music in the early 70s in songwriting and arranging.
Oh, that's
so yeah, he learned how to write for horns and strings and so he made some R&B records in the early 70s.
Wow.
So yeah, I've heard them all my life, you know, he'd play them. But anyway, he knew growing up in Alabama as he did, and in the radio, from what I understand in those days, in especially in the African-American neighborhoods and black neighborhoods, you wouldn't just hear like R&B music. You'd hear R&B and blues and gospel and jazz. You know, you'd hear all the black American musics. Sure. So he knew, even though he was never a huge jazz fan, he knew who the great saxophone players were. So when he saw that I was really getting into it, he bought me a Dexter Gordon record, a Bird record, a Sonny Rollins record, a Train record, an Ornette Coleman record, and a Branford Marsalis record. Because Branford in like 89 or so, when I was first getting into 89, 90, Branford was the young lion and he was the guy, you know? So I had all those records to listen to, and then I'd bug him, you know, to buy me more and buy me more. So I'm very fortunate that my dad was hip to who some of the great saxophone players were. Yeah. In addition, speaking of Jackie McLean, when I first met him, I was 15. And he gave me a list of 7 saxophone players. I don't mind sharing this, you know, a list of, because sometimes with information, you know, he wasn't so keen on his students sharing, you know, information, you know, with others. But, you know, I think at this stage, you know, he'd appreciate the fact that I'm trying to pass it on. So he gave me a list, and it was a personal list for me of 7 saxophone players to check out. And not just to listen to and to, you know, appreciate, but to like learn everything I possibly could about all 7. And I took that to heart. He didn't take me through like step by step with each one and take me through it, but he kind of gave me this big old project, you know?
Yeah, sure.
And man, I was so into just diving right in. And the 7 saxophone players were Lester Young, Bird, Dexter, Sonny Stitt, Sonny Rollins, Train, and Wayne Shorter. And he said, I want you to take, this isn't a project for like next month or next year. This is a project for years, you know, which I took that to heart. So I took like a year with each one, right? And just learned every solo I could, learn all of their tunes that I could learned as much about them as I can learn. And I added other saxophone players to that list, ones that I also liked, like Hank Mobley I always loved, and Joe Henderson I always loved, and who else? Jackie McLean. He didn't add himself on that list, you know. I put him on that list, you know. So that was really helpful in getting me going and kind of getting me a really good concept of how to grow in the music. So how about you? What were some influential things early on in your development?
Yeah, well, man, boy, that's a tough one to follow. I mean, getting a list of seven, gems like that from Jackie McLean. I mean, I was in high school. I sort of I really started to get serious about this right before high school. There's a music camp up here in Wisconsin, to the north of me, a few hours, called Birch Creek, and I went there when I was a kid, just going into high school, summer between eighth grade and ninth grade, and I was just blown away. I mean, I knew that I had some talent on the instrument, but I wasn't really interested in listening to the music or studying it at all. But then seeing other people who were my age show an enthusiasm for it, that was kind of mind blowing. Like, wow, other young people are interested in this, you know. But yeah, for me, I went straight to Bird right away, because everyone was talking about, if you're he's a good place to begin, even though you think about, in retrospect, man, that's some of the most intense, complex stuff. Like,
Sure, it is. Yeah.
that's not beginner stuff,
No.
But that's kind of where I started. I just
Mhm.
bought I think it was a Verve compilation, The Essential Charlie Parker, and a lot of his latter day stuff from the 50s. Got really hip to that. And then I got really into Train, got into Michael Brecker, got into Wayne in high school. And you think about all those players. I was actually thinking about this earlier. All those players are kind of like responsible for, in one way or another, taking the blues and kind of like modernizing it or reshaping it or reinterpreting it, right? But I think the one that comes closest to playing the blues in a traditional way would be Bird, in a certain way, although of course he took it in new directions too. But I got to pay tribute to one of my fallen heroes, Mark Colby, and a fellow Vandoren artist, and someone that recently passed away. And he introduced me to the idea of, if you're going to listen to these more ethereal players, you got to you have to get down to the blues, and you have to deal with the earthiness of bluesy players. I had listened to Rollins and those kind of players, but it was really, I remember he told me about Gene Ammons' Boss Tenor, and from there I was like, man, this is how you play the blues. This is like one step toward a different way of interpreting the blues. That was sort of more. I hate to use the word authentic, but it was the blue. It was like what you think of when you think of the blues. I mean, Gene Ammons just embodies that for me. And so I picked.
What a sound, man! Like one note. I was talking to Jimmy Heath about Gene Ammons.
Yeah, sure.
And he said he was sitting in a balcony at a Gene Ammons concert, way up in the back.
Yeah.
And he said Gene played a low, I think he said a low D, ooh, on the tenor. And he said, I felt my chair shake when he played that note. Woo, that's the sound, man.
Incredible.
That's the sound right there.
I mean, the sound doesn't get any bigger than Gene Ammons, right?
Yeah, yeah.
We can all learn so much from that, because you take a player like Train, and he took that blues sensibility and brought it into the 60s, and spoke about what it was to play the blues in the 60s, but Ammons, he harkened back to it, I think, an earlier interpretation of it, and it was just like this beautiful, beautiful sound combined with his interpretation. And I remember transcribing this, and I soon after that I bought the Gene Ammons Sonny Stitt. I got into the Tough Tenors quintet, with Sonny Stitt, and transcribed. And I always kind of was more of a Gene Ammons, and nothing against Sonny Stitt. I mean, he's the man, but Gene just kind of spoke to me on a deeper level. And I remember transcribing Gene, and yeah, just props to and thanks to Mark Colby for telling me, hey man, you can do all this kind of futuristic stuff, but it doesn't really mean anything unless you got to investigate, where all this stuff came from. And
got to go to the blues. Absolutely. Yeah. So we were talking a little bit about composition.
Yeah.
Compositional process, and I'm curious as to, because I've listened to some of your newest album, and I think you write some great tunes, and there's some beautiful playing on it as well. What kind of things are you dealing with, thinking about, inspired by when you go to write?
Yeah, man, what a what a great question, and a hard one too, because
Mm-hmm.
it's like, you take a jazz arranging class and you kind of learn, we both teach at our respective universities jazz arranging, and in some ways that's easier to teach than composition for my money, because you're taking existing material and you're like orchestrating it, or but
Mm-hmm.
composition, jazz composition, man, what rules do you have to really follow? It's like, well, does it sound good? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
like, does it work?
Mm-hmm.
It's tough, but one thing that has really helped me is thinking of each tune as its own entity, and the thematic material you present with that tune, trying to milk that thematic material for all it's worth. Don't just stuff it full of a bunch of different ideas, but try to use whatever thematic material you first come up with. Try to find other things within that material to re-examine and pull for a shout chorus, or for the out head to make it different from the in head, which is something I love about While Looking Up, is that you've got all the your out heads, man. It's like they're all so unexpected, like that tune, the fast one. I'm sorry, the name is
Overreaction.
Overreaction. Thank you.
Or maybe there's another fast one called Always There.
No, I was thinking
with the ostinato.
Overreaction.
Okay.
The ones that I think it ends on a high G or something. That's like the ending of it. I'm pretty sure that's what I'm thinking of. Anyway,
that's Always There with the guitar ostinato. Boop 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 boop. Always There. Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yep.
I'm trying to get the titles straight, but yeah, that's one thing that I feel like we kind of are, people that study composition are kind of trying to take that thematic material and really develop it. I mean, that's something I hear McNeely doing, and that's something I definitely hear you doing on that record, and coming up with different ideas based on just one little idea. Like, for example, this tune Lone Wolf that I have on my latest record is just, it's a major, the idea is just a major triad with a fourth in there. So it's like a major add.
Yep. And I love that sound.
Oh, thanks, man. And so you take it in one key, go down an octave, and then lift it up a whole step, go up an octave and put it down a whole step, and then just move it around the keyboard like that. And that was it. That little idea just, and then it's like an 8-minute tune after that. It just kind of like, it was a germ for how to think the rest of it. And I feel like that gives compositions sort of an individualistic feeling to them. But I mean, you speak on that too. I'd love to get your perspective on that.
Yeah, like a great composition doesn't have a ton of ideas necessarily. It has, one really strong idea and then something else to contrast it.
Yes.
So the fun is trying to develop that one idea, like you said, and make it interesting, and not make it interesting to me, and fresh to my ears. The limited amount of idea, but trying to weave it in different ways so that it can be very melodic and very flowing. It's, to me, making an album, especially making an album of original compositions, is like the most fun thing. It's like you take everything from the very beginning and you see it all the way through, and every step of the way is just total joy. I think we have a question on our chat from Matt Thrasher on the VandorenUSA page. Suggestion for a Vandoren read for a young alto sax player for jazz and marching band. I love the ZZ reads. For me, you can't go wrong with any of them. There's slight differences, like the Java red box or green box, or the blue box, traditional Vandoren reed. To me, you can't really go wrong. I think if you're dealing with a younger player, you probably want to dial down the strength of the reed. We were talking about playing number 3 and So I would say 2.5 at the at the most. But yeah, that also depends on the mouthpiece you're playing, the facing and the chamber, how big it is. But sounding like for marching band, you want to project. And depending on if he's playing or she are playing lead alto, you want to project that too. So you would probably, I don't know. I think my experience, at least playing the Java reeds, is that they have a more of a like a cutting feeling than the ZZ reeds do. So maybe a Java might be a good choice. I don't know. What do you think about that, Chris?
I was just going to say the exact same thing. Yeah. I mean, that's one of the reasons why the Java, yeah, exactly. Vandoren seems to the Java seemed to project more. The Greene box. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I played Greene Javas in high school because I wanted sort of I wanted my sound to cut a lot. Mm-hmm. I wanted a very bright kind of brash sound. Not that mm-hmm. Not in a bad way. I just wanted to be. That's what I was into, and that might be a good suggestion. I think maybe Java. ZZ I kind of like. I could be wrong about this because I'm not a reed technician or anything, but I think the tip of the ZZ is cut a slight bit thicker, and so it kind of takes some of the edge off of that. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the reasons why I like, because I have to taper that with my metal mouthpiece. If I don't do that, it's going to be like, too much. So yeah, I think you're right, Jimmy. I think that the Java, either the Greene or the red box, probably Matt, would be the best option for you.
Yeah. But like I said, it's interesting. Like you can adjust the mouthpiece to get more projection. You can adjust the reed to get slightly more projection. I've even found that the ligature, makes a difference. Like I used to play, before I started playing Vandoren stuff, I played one of those circular wood ligatures. It doesn't have like a screw or anything. It just kind of fits over the mouthpiece. You have to get it in the right size, obviously, or else you're not going to get a seal. But I use one of those, and it vibrated a certain way. But I really like the MO, especially the this gold plated MO. It really makes the reed resonate, and it makes the vibration of the reed, and therefore the projection of the sound, I think, is even greater because the reed's allowed to vibrate more with that. So yeah, my suggestion for a young alto player maybe would be check out a Java reed, and start soft, like 2.5 at the most.
Pair that with a V16, small medium chamber mouthpiece, and
there you go. Wow. You're golden.
You're golden. So yeah, man, we managed to talk through most of this. Do you want to close out by playing a little bit more?
Let's play a little bit more. Yeah.
Do confirmation, I think. Is that
sure?
All right, let's do that. Oh man, I wanted to ask you. I was talking with my friends recently about this, because that jam session intro that everyone plays on this.
Yeah.
Like, where does that come from? Because Bird never played it.
No, the recording I have that I got early on, speaking of Jackie McLean, when I, one of the first people on that list that I checked out was Dexter, right? Yeah. There's an album of Dexter from the 50s, which are rare. Dexter didn't really make many albums in the 50s. But there's one, I think, called, man, I might be forgetting, Daddy Plays the Horn, maybe? And he plays Confirmation, and he does play that intro. That's the first I heard it,
Okay. Yeah, one of my friends said it was there was a Jimmy Smith House Party, I think, a record, when they play it, but it's like, it's different. They do it, they do the first part, and then as a drum fill, and then they trade. So I was just curious, because everybody plays that, it seems like, but nobody really knows where it comes from for sure.
Yeah.
Maybe it is that Dexter record. Maybe that's what it was.
Maybe, who knows? That's kind of cool though. It's like, if you think of music as a language, right? The language gets passed on, and no one really knows like the origins of the phrase "all right" or "cool" or solid. It's just it. But we all know what it means when you hear it. It's one of those things with language.
Yeah, it's kind of a mystery. All right, well, how about what if we want to trade 8s on the melody here?
Sure.
Okay, let's do that.
All right now.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, Chris.
Sounds fantastic, man.
Likewise, bro. Great to play with you. Great to hang. Great to talk.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Have a great rest of your virtual hybrid or whatever it is semester where you are. I know that's what it is where I am, and, and hopefully we can be out playing this music sometime soon.
Yes. Here's hoping for sure. Thank you, Jimmy. Right. It's a pleasure and an honor, my friend. I appreciate it.
My pleasure, man. Thank you.
All right. Take care.
All right.
Thanks.